Have you ever watched a movie or played a game and thought to yourself, man, I wished I could get my time back? Well, I'm sure you have at some point over the years, and so have I. Whether it's the anime of the month that I decided to go ahead and give a chance that turned out to be some other form of isekai slop, or just something that sounds like it had an interesting premise from its description, but was just an absolute letdown with the execution. And with gaming for me for a long time, that was kind of untrue. I didn't have a lot of that in gaming, mostly because of the fact that I didn't play a lot of games growing up. That's not to say that I didn't have consoles, but a lot of the games I played boiled down to either Pokemon or Need for Speed, with some other dashes of games here and there like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and a few other games that I would have played as well. But most of my gaming was just restricted to Need for Speed and Pokemon by my own design, even though there were other games around for me to play. That said, the older I got was the more I seeked to kind of widen my palette, so to speak, and pick up on some other games that might be more fun, that were a little more outside of my comfort zone. And I've done a good job, I'd say, so far of picking out different games that seem like a lot of fun to go ahead and try, and I still have a lot of games on my list that I'd like to go through and try at some point as well. And this has led to the unfortunate fact that now I think I can say there are games where I would have wanted my time back. Though, to be fair to the games that I've come across, it's not a lot of them, and some of them I at least found charming in some ways, or maybe a little bit funny. But the worst offenders for me are the games like the one I'm talking about today, where you think the game has a lot of promise based on some of the things that it does, but it doesn't go anywhere. And I'm saying this about a game that I played for 200 plus hours. Yes, this game is really bad. I'm not sure exactly what I'm calling the title of this, but I think the title gets across that nobody should ever try to do something like this, at least not as bad as this was done. And I'm still gonna say that I had over 200 hours in this game because I thought the game had some form of promise to it. That game is known as Dawnlands. A game that you cannot even get into anymore. I can't even show you that I had 200 hours in this game, so for all means, go ahead and call me a LARPer or something, but it's no longer on Steam or anywhere that I can show my playtime hours. If I have any saved photos or anything of anywhere, maybe I'll slap it on screen, but as far as I'm aware, there's no way for you to play this game anymore, and I don't think there'll ever be a revival project of anyone trying to get like the coding for this game and maybe making it like something that people can play offline or something. That's potentially never happening because this game's fan base just wasn't large enough, and that is the devs' fault because this game received zero care, and I mean absolutely none. It was buggy, it was laggy, it was just overall an awful experience to play this game. But it had a lot of key features that a lot of games have introduced first, that they kind of compiled together in a way that made me want to actually try giving this game a chance, and hoping that the devs might look in its direction at some point to change some things and maybe make it a better game. But alas, we never got anything like that, and the game's just gone now. And you can actually see in the Discord as well that there were some other people that agreed with me. This game does have some charm, but it was a bad game, and it's mostly remained that way to its end of life as of March 27th this year because of the fact that the devs just didn't care. And after looking at who the devs are, I've realized that this is actually a normal occurrence with them. They seem to be a little bit lazy when it comes to their game. So without further ado, let's talk about this particular trash pile that is Dawnlands, and talk about the reasons as to why I played this game for those 200 hours, and why there are things from this game I'd love to see in the future. Now, if you ask me the question, what exactly is Dawnlands? It's difficult to explain this game. Not because I can't, but usually when you want to explain something, you'd like to keep it as concise as possible, and keeping it concise is actually mission impossible in this case, because this game does a lot of things all at once, which isn't really a good thing. I think most people are already screaming that's a big red flag, but hear me out. These things actually all kind of work together. The game is an open world RPG game that allows for you to level up your character and level up your skills, while also incorporating mining aspects like you would have in Minecraft, being able to mine dirt, stone, bedrock, iron ore that you need for armor and swords and stuff. So the game definitely had a lot of stuff that it wanted to incorporate all into one space, while also really making a poor attempt at trying to be like a FromSoft game with making their bosses difficult and about like timing and stuff like that. We'll get to all of the reasons why that wasn't the case in just a moment, but regardless, this game was doing a pretty good job, at least to me, of putting together elements that actually work together. They definitely fit together, at least for me, as like a really good puzzle. And I liked this game, especially because of the fact that it was an anime-like game, right? Now, a lot of the videos and whatever you might be able to find out there now probably won't do this game much justice, since I think most players played this game on mobile, but this game actually wasn't the worst looking thing I'd ever seen. It wasn't the best, but regardless, I could tolerate the way that this game looked, and I do like more anime kind of cel-shaded 3D styles than very realistic looking styles when it comes down to it. As an example, I'm a huge fan of Marvel Rivals' look, as opposed to, say, for example, Overwatch's look, and that's been consistent for me for a very long time. So I was extremely excited when a game that is like this, since Dawnlands is not the only game of its kind, but Dawnlands is the only game that looks this way while also incorporating those things, came out. So it really did feel like a huge blow after playing this game for about, I don't know, the first 5 hours with friends to realize that this game is a whole bunch of steaming pile of garbage. Well, I don't even know exactly where to start with some of the things that are wrong with this game, but I say let's go ahead and talk about the game movement, or just overall game mechanics, because if you get to see anything that has to do with this game online, and I'll try finding some videos that I can place in here so you guys can understand it's exactly how bad this was, the movement in this game was really bad. There was no climbing, which is actually pretty normal in most games in this day and age. Like, you could climb in Breath of the Wild that came out in like 2017. Might have been sooner, might have been 2015, I'll put that on screen, but it's been a while since you've been able to climb up surfaces. Instead, you were forced to run at surfaces and just jump at them. And that's how you would climb in this game, which was extremely stupid. And it should be noted that one of the reasons my friends and I played this game in the first place was after we found it and opened it for the first time, we saw something stupid and funny happen where a deer just kind of died while being in the middle of water, and it was the funniest, stupid looking animation we'd ever seen. And we already knew this game was gonna be a little bit dumb, right? But dumb and unplayable are two different things, and this game was very much unplayable. The combat was also really poor. See, there wasn't really a dodging mechanic. You could run, which is what you had to do to dodge, which you might go, well, you know, you can also use the run button to dodge in many other games. See, the games would know when you're actually trying to dodge something if you're being attacked. This game has no idea of that. As a matter of fact, this game was just a whole mess when it came to trying to fight anything. I don't think it knows when you're in battle like any time at all, since nothing seems to happen that triggers to show that you're inside of a battle, besides the fact that you're in the boss's area and the health bar shows up. Otherwise than that, it just treats it like any normal mob enemy, right? There's no dodging mechanic, there's no counter mechanic, there's nothing in here when it comes down to the actual combat of it. And there isn't actually much that goes into actually trying to be like strategic in these fights either. If you try looking up how to beat some of the bosses in Dawnlands, it's just a whole bunch of mining before the fight starts and maybe keeping them in some really like weird positions so that you can launch off spells from really far away or do something of the sort, which is just really boring. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think there's any way for you to beat a lot of the other bosses the way that you'd hope to, you know, by actually just outclassing the boss by being better in a one-on-one fight and being able to dodge and get some form of gratification from actually learning combos or learning something in a skill set of the game. But there was none of that here. The combat, the movement, they were really poor, and they never got any fixes ever since I started playing the game. And I could check the logs to see if there's anything that was done before, but if it was that bad when I started and there were no updates as of 2023, again, I started playing the game 2024, I don't think it's even worth mentioning anything that came beforehand. I don't want to imagine how much worse it was. So yeah, the combat and the movement of this game were terrible, like really, really god awful. And if I want to go ahead and pivot to it for a second, let's also talk about, since we're talking about combat, let's talk about the bosses of this game and the way that they really, really lacked any form of personality, with the exception of one. I do think the giant stone golem that is the third boss of the game that lets go a really large retractable like kind of hammer arm was really cool, but it was also a little bit boring to fight against this thing as well. I'm gonna be honest with you. It just shot out some bunch of like really bullshit lasers at me half the time, and I just had to dodge and hide behind like stuff and then wait for its hammer to like get stuck in the ground, hit its hammer multiple times, and then just go hit it, which was it was repetitive and really boring, and this was the case for a lot of the bosses as well. I kind of really wished I had the clip of my friends and I playing the second boss of the game, which we fought together, which was hilariously stupid because it was just a giant mushroom guy throwing out a bunch of like green energy balls at us the entire time, and we were dying a lot because we just didn't know what the hell to do. And it was kind of funny at first, and then it just got like really infuriating. I also played this on stream with my friend GuyRTTV, and it was also infuriating playing with him on stream, as well as Angie Vixen, who was playing with me at that time as well. It was really tragic. It was horrible. I don't just mean the game itself, but our ability to try and beat that thing was genuinely god awful. Still, we would eventually have gotten it done. And that was a huge like gap between the first and second boss as well. It was kind of crazy. Regardless, this game just didn't do a very good job with the boss characters, and it also didn't do a good job with the characters that you meet in and around the game. See, these characters feel like the most NPCs I've ever come across. It was a game filled with characters that have no character. I cannot remember a single character from this game in any actual good capacity besides the follower characters, who I do actually want to give some praise to for a second, because I do like the follower mechanic. I think this is actually the only time that I've ever kind of liked a gacha mechanic, and I do actually have a screenshot of me getting one of those gacha characters that I was really happy about. Hopefully I still have it. I realized while recording this I might not have that screenshot anymore, but her name was Aya, and she was a healer character, which I do like the fact that all the characters had different roles, which is normal among other games, but in this particular case, I just got to be my own character and have a follower character with me that was able to provide me with buffs or healing while I went out there and did what it is that I needed to do. And Carrot was also a great character for a good portion of the game, where I just had her like spam arrows from really far away while I went in close, kind of like as a Vanguard-like character. So I do like the follower mechanic, and as a matter of fact, I actually prefer this to the gacha kind of style of switching characters in and out, which I think is fun, but I don't know, there's something that's better for me about having that singular character and then having other characters follow me around that provide me with assistance. I don't mind having like a system where I could potentially switch between the two. Maybe I can switch to just playing and having the character assist, or actually being able to switch between both characters, since I would actually like to see what it's like to play with Carrot's kit as an example. Not that there was anything that would be different from what I would do with a bow and arrow, since her animations were the exact same as the main characters, but still, it was nice to have another character with you, even though you were on your single player journey, attacking the bosses and mobs that there are out there. So that part of everything was really, really fun. But that's kind of the only thing that I have that's like a true positive to say about this game, because everything else that I'm going to talk about that's something I liked about this game was just something I hoped would improve, or just things that I liked at a baseline that I really hoped would have been more than they ended up being in the end. And it's really sad that I have to be talking about it in this like prospect, or in this manner, a game that is now no longer playable, and my friends have laughed at me multiple times for being so hung up on this game being gone. But it also hurt me that I never got the chance to finish this game, but that's also because I just never played it too seriously. I really did want for this game to become something better, and I don't think I'll ever see anything like it again, but fingers crossed, maybe I will. So what exactly was it that I was hoping for to be better in this game? Well, First, there's the character customization, and it's not stellar, but it's also not the worst thing in the world. It allows for you to modify the main things you need modified: your hair, your face, your body, put on tattoos if you want to. It's pretty cool, but it's not as detailed as I expected it to be for a game that came out in 2023, the same year that they stopped giving this game updates. Again, leaning into the biggest problem with this game: nobody cared about it, and we'll get to the reason why I think no one cared about it in just a moment. But regardless, I think this was actually pretty chill. I like the customization aspect of it and everything. I quite enjoy doing customization of my character every single time I get that opportunity. For example, I'm a huge fan of Where Winds Meets customization. It's one of the best I've seen to date so far. I quite enjoy it a lot. However, I do, as I said before, like more anime kind of cel-shaded like 3D models, and as a result, I was really excited to be able to do that in this game, but it didn't really allow me to do it to the freeness that I would expect to. And once you actually did it the first time, you just didn't get to do it ever again, which kind of sucked. I couldn't change anything after this point, like not even my hair. I understand not changing my face maybe, but I couldn't change my hair or take tattoos off or anything of that sort if I wanted to, which means whatever you created at the start of the game, you were just stuck with, which to me was a little bit silly, but it's also whatever. I also did like the other cosmetics that you could get. A lot of the suits inside of this game and the other stuff that were there, which is kind of cool. The huge silver and blue armor, or I think silver and black armor with a blue cape, was also really cool that you could actually pull on in the game. I'm not sure I like that part being gacha system related, but as far as I'm aware, they're mostly cosmetic and not so much about having like enhanced durability or anything. I think they just match the same durability as some of the other suits that you'd have to the game at that point, which is perfectly fine to me. It might be a pay to win situation if you're like at the start of the game and you get those armors, like being able to pull them first try or something, but otherwise, I don't see them being the biggest deal in the world. Regardless, I quite enjoyed these things, but they were also really piss poor in terms of the fact that there was just never an improvement on them ever beyond the initial release of everything we got in the game. The followers remained the same, there was no improvement in stuff that the followers did, no new animations, nothing flashy, and so pulling everything just felt a little unrewarding. It felt very non-gacha, despite the fact that the system you needed to do this on was a gacha system. And I'm really sad that I put any amount of my gems inside of doing this at this point, even though again I enjoyed quite a few of the followers, including Aya, who I did pull for and was one of my favorites that I wasted gems on. But I don't know, it just felt like I wasted my time with doing anything with this character, since while she was nice to have, I could have survived without her, to be honest, and they just didn't really do anything that was special with her either. And the same goes for the cosmetics. They are kind of cool to look at, but there's nothing special that actually comes with them, so to speak, right? Like, they're a cool little skin, I guess, but I don't think these should be gacha. Whenever you put out something that's gacha, you want it to feel special, a lot like pulling a 5-star character in, say for example, a Genshin Impact, a Wuthering Waves, or any other gacha game that there is out there. But I feel like the value is lost whenever I'm pulling on clothes that are mostly just cosmetic, that nothing else kind of comes with them. There's no special animations or anything of that sort for the amount of time and effort and resources I'm putting into pulling these things, which is really, really sad. And it actually is just a trend from the devs at this point to keep ignoring things that might be worth something in this game. Another thing that I liked, before getting on to the devs in a second, is also the ability to ride horses. I wish there was more that we could actually mount in this game. Things like dragons, which actually do exist in this game. There are a bunch of baby ones, and I had seen somewhere that you could mount a dragon. This was apparently false, which kinda sucked, but I really wished I was able to do stuff like that as well. The horses though did suffer from the exact same thing I mentioned earlier in the movement section of this video. They couldn't really do a lot of movement. They were actually really horrible at moving around. The stamina bar on them depleted way too quickly for horses, in my opinion. Whenever I got to any form of even shallow water, they couldn't go through it like at all. And once again, they struggled to go up any form of surface that even had a slight incline, which was just funny to me. The ability to slide on your shields was also really cool. I do like actually just like sliding around on a plank of wood or on an actual shield that I have down the mountainside, which does allow for easier traversal when going downhill. So they had some things that were pretty cool that were incorporated into this game, and those were all of those things for me. When I look back at these things, I think that's a part of the reason why I played this game as much as I did. It's because I'd hope that the devs would look at this game maybe once or twice more and say, we have some good things here, maybe we could at the very least repurpose them for something better. But see, once I found out who these devs were, I was certain that was never gonna happen. See, this game was developed by Season Games, a game company that you guys may know from developing a game like Mecha Break, a game that I actually intended to play with GuyverTTV well over some time ago. And as of the time of me making this video right now, Mecha Break is really low on player count numbers. It's not doing so hot at all. And I think a majority of that, from what I've been able to see online, is people just think the devs are lazy. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, it sounds very familiar to Dawnlands. Dawnlands is the exact same situation. A game that does have potential, but the devs just don't seem to care. The last update that Dawnlands got was in 2023, and this game only just shut down in 2026, 3 years later. The game came out in 2023, which makes it crazy that they only updated the game for a few months and then decided it was time to pack it up and get going and move on to newer pastures, where they proceeded to also do a whole lot of nothing. This game was doomed not because it was the worst game in the world. I've played games that are worse, but it was bad and there was no attempt to make the game better, despite the fact that it had some good fundamentals to build on. And if you're a developer out there, or if you intend to develop at any point, my advice to you is to actually look at your game and see what are the things that people like from those games. If you look at the Discord community for Dawnlands, you will find positive feedback for things people wanted to see from this game. And of course, everyone is aware that this game is not perfect by any means. It's actually really bad for the most part of it, but the game wasn't unsalvageable, at least to most of us. It did have some means of being saved. Still, the devs just decided none of that, and it's clear that whatever they put their hands on these days, they're probably gonna put up in flames. So if Season Games is coming out with something, I just wouldn't put too much hope into it actually being worth anything. It might just be a giant waste of your time, and don't be like me who spent over 200 hours playing this game. Regardless, that's all I had to say. This video was a little less uniform than some others that I intend to make going forward, but I just wanted to talk about how bad this game ended up being because of very lazy developers, and move on to talking about better games that there are out there that I may have more positive things to say about, while maybe also still sharing some feedback the game could use to get better. Till then though, peace out. I'll see you guys next time.